Hi guys, welcome to another video. So this is a series of interview questions and answers, of different industrial knowledge that we require to attend an interview. So first part, I'm planning to go with the Linux. So a couple of questions will be, that means commonly used questions that will be during the part of interview that we'll be discussing. So without any further delay, I'll be entering into a couple of questions in the Linux. So the people who are changing their company, the people who are looking for a change, or the people who are starting their career to any domain means any domain that Linux is a very important part of their career. And yeah, so like we can look one by one. So the first and foremost question, why Linux, and reason you are using, what the reason you are using, or purpose of the Linux, or any advantage. So these are some basic things we should know. Like this is not will not be a question in your interview case, but this thing you should know something in a basic way. So what is actually happening? The why Linux? So a couple of points I mentioned. I segregated from so many location. I just added a couple of points here, and it is I could say like you can add more if you want to, and you can also add in the comments what are the other things that we can add more apart from this Linux. So Linux is the future. So it has been around with us for the past 25 years, and it will be there with us the coming years, because that much potential is there for the Linux. And people are enjoyed by using the Linux and the commands and everything. Okay, so see, Linux is everything. That means Linux is on everything. There is another thing. That means two-thirds of servers around the world, in the production company, in the like the internet or any kind of servers, what they are using is on the basis of Linux. And it is on our the day-to-day uses we are using on the mobile phone. It's about a Linux. And also the OS or IoT devices, or even the Tesla cars now so coming or completely automated or completely programmed in the basis of Linux as an operating system. And there's so many gaming platform or gaming convention, PlayStation 5, or specifically the corresponding things or thing is based on Linux. And apart from that, it is adaptable. It can we can create for the small organization to large enterprise network by simply the small form of the Linux can be adaptable to everywhere. Okay. And another very important point is it has a strong community in the world. Whatever the questions or the commands, or if you are stuck in anywhere, at the point of time, just Google it, and there is a wide varieties of company, people who is sitting there and updating their web page and getting a lot of information. There is another advantage, and it is an open source. Like anybody can download the Linux, and most of the time, and sometimes it is free, and there is paid versions as well as some extra features, some upgraded bug-free environments. So, and last but not the least, Linux is fun. When you get into deeper and deeper into the Linux, it is quite fun. It is enjoyable. Like if you are an expert in the Linux, you can play around the CLI. It would be very great. So now we are getting to a couple of questions that interview may you may see this as an interview. So this is in a orderly basis. So you can also follow this interview question to get a complete understanding about a certain area. So first of all, I'm getting in a small thing, what is an operating system. So you guys also know, apart from the Linux, we have a famous operating system, that is Windows. But when it comes to the Windows, it is in a user perspective. That means users inside the company, they may using the Windows machines, but the servers, the workstations, the devices, the firewalls, the proxies, all the devices along the market, the underlying OS is the Linux. So this is what is a software. So that means what is an OS? It's nothing, just to make do something. Like if you want to make your mobile phone to do something, you want to install something on the hardware, on the top of the hardware. So this is a thing that, or this is a software, we could say, like a corresponding software which we are installing on top of a hardware device. So that is the operating system. So Linux is one of the operating system. For an example, for your example, the phone, your iPhone you're using, iOS is an operating system, and the MacBook that you're using, the Apple Mac OS is an operating system. So this is something something that we want to like what the software that to make do some things. Okay, so that you can take the snap of this question, and also get into the question some more in detail. Again, the next question: how Linux OS look like? As we mentioned, the OS is something we to forcefully to do something, to make to something. So how a Linux OS look like? So on the top of the hardware, there will be the kernel. So it is not directly the operating system; it is the kernel. Kernel is the heart actually. Kernel doing a lot of stuff, and then on the top of that operating system and all the libraries, system daemons, shells, tools, all the things are on the top of the operating system. So operating system is a platform somewhere we can download the applications and download so many things. So it's a third most part. Okay, okay, as a next point, what is a kernel? As I mentioned that this is a wonderful question like a Linux OS look like. So we want to know the shell by that the layered architecture of the Linux OS. So we can, while troubleshooting also, it is somewhat good to know like we will be getting a architecture of the Linux completely by if we have a clear picture of that. And the same way, what is a kernel? So here, the second layer on the top of the hardware, there will be kernel. So what this kernel, what does it do? This is very important, and it is a very special piece of the operating system. As you guys know, the second layer of the operating system, and it controls the entire things of the device, like a CPU controls the CPU and allocates the memory and access the data, schedule the process, upgrades, downgrades, run the applications, and allocate the space for application, and the segregate the application from each other, and product is there any vulnerabilities, all the things are completely managed in between the hardware and the underlying or the on top of application. Underlying kernel is the main part of the OS, or main part of the entire Linux. So the most critical, that means the specific critical part of the kernel, like all that means it is loaded into the specific areas of the memory. That means kernel memory is separated, and it has a some significance. That means it won't be applicable for everyone to if something happened to the kernel, the entire OS will crash. So it will be protected in such a way, and the kernel it will be loaded the moment the device get the power. The kernel is the first thing that is going to load, and if the kernel is ready and up and running, most of the application will be will run without no problems. Okay, so the next thing. Okay, Linux team. So I may talk a little faster. You can slow me down. You can use the slot options, or you can fast me up if you are getting some. So if you already know the stuff, you can fasten me up. Okay, this is something for your information. And what is a Linux daemon? So as I mentioned, there is one of another famous question that may I got a question from one of the organization. What is a daemon? So what is the operating on the top of the Linux OS? What is a daemon? So you can see that kernel hardware is something like the main hardware box, or the box, the kernel, that is we mentioned like a special the piece of the this one to maintain all the memory, hard or CPU, all this sort of stuff. And the operating system we already know, so something software on the top of that we all apply all the applications, and here the system daemons. So on the top of that we are getting the system daemons. Now here you see so what is actually that? So specifically the daemons are the someone that call the Linux system to do something. Hey, I want to add a user. A user is trying to access remote access, so he need an access to get into this one. So most of them you already know the user who will be trying accessing the thing that will be an SSHD. So the daemon that is used for a specific remote accessing purpose is SSHD. And the same way, the some user want to get into the like specifically the web browsing stuff. There is HTTPD, that is daemon is there. So many daemons are there for specific functionalities in the Linux. So for an example, I can say that SSHD, that is secure shell daemon, this system runs in the background and authorized incoming request to log on to the Linux box. That means we can host into the multiple users into the Linux system. So during that time, we can add multiple users with the help of this daemon, SSHD daemon. So many daemons on the specific of the users. When the users want to log into the device or any services. So with the kernel, or we are sending the specific condition to the kernel saying that I have a user want to try to the access. So this is I want an SSH daemon to like to I will do something. That's daemon will help me to understand what kind of thing or what kind of traffic or what kind of protocol is coming on the way. So that is the daemon. So this is also pretty much famous question that you may get in interview. And the next question is a distribution. Okay, so this is main thing like Linux distribution. So it is said you may already know Linux is a most widely used and very famous with a lot of what libraries, system daemons, developing tools, applications, packaging, life cycles. A lot of stuff is happening in the Linux distribution. There is a lot of wide varieties of interoperability, and as well as it has been used widely a lot of areas with even large specialized industries and enterprise networks. This is wide varieties of Linux is there. So commonly you guys already familiar with from the day one Ubuntu. It's a common one. Debian, Kali systems, Debian system, Fedora, OpenSUSE, or apart from that, there is so many other server like platforms are there, like CentOS. So many Linux distributions are there. So distro means it's a specifically like we will be downloading one of the Linux system and installing on that. And depend upon that, I'm using Kali over here. It's my Kali, so you can see my system. Okay, so I will get back to you on that and what is distribution. Okay, so this is the distribution. Distro means the distribution of what is suitable for you, suitable for your business, suitable for your running organization perspective. This is completely based on your business or your corresponding need. Like so many out there, and some are very user friendly, especially Ubuntu and Debian's are very user friendly, and some have only like CentOS and all only have distribution, only have the CLI, no GUI environment. So based on our need, we'll be downloading that and we'll be using that. Okay, now next, it's very important part, and mostly people will be getting this question: what are the spaces available in a Linux OS? Okay, so there is two major space. Actually, every memory is segregated only to the system space mostly, but here the spaces in the Linux OS, it is not only two, it not only one, it has two space: user space and kernel space. Okay, so now the user space, in the user space, all the application, database, web server, network monitor related stuff, user related information, especially the database information or web server, cache, cookies, stuff like that, network monitoring information, TCP ping, like so many other information, the tools, library, system daemons, shell, these things are segregated to the kernel. Kernel has different set of memory, and it has some other set of things, and it is very important to know the schedulers, the drivers, the security things, the networking part of the kernel. It is separated, they are segregated, or they are like isolated by each other. Okay, so this is a very good part of the things in the Linux OS. That means the spaces available, that means the availability space is segregated or isolated to two parts: user space and the kernel space. Okay, this is something you need to be remembered while you are going for something some high interviews. So the next thing. Okay, so the next question, eventually, like you will be immediately say, oh, user space and what are the spaces available in Linux OS. Eventually, you will say, user space and kernel space. That's it. So the next question will be like, what is the user space and a kernel space, and why the separation? Why? What is the advantage? Can we make it to the same one because we can get more space? No, it's not good. So here you see the user space is something like, as I mentioned, user space has something like application execute on the user level, especially like the user network tools or network monitoring tools, so databases or web server related stuff, or application. So the main thing is application can come from variety of sources. Maybe the application you are downloading is purely poorly developed. The people does not look into the bugs or stuff like that, and it is completely utterly disappointing application. Maybe this information we are downloading and we are adding this to our device, if the user space and kernel space is the same, this poorly updated code will be mixed with the kernel space information, eventually which can lead to our internal complete crash of the Linux OS. So what we isolated these two space, and what it is actually happening is, there means they cannot, or there is poorly developed bullshit, specifically, or I'm sorry about the using the bad term, and this cannot be tamper the kernel resources, or specifically the kernel things, or cause the system to panic or crash, go crash. So that is the main advantage, specifically it won't avoid, or it cannot tamper the like kernel resources, or to crash to the or go on crash. So that is the main advantage of this isolation. And here, okay, so now what we are using, or why, or what we are using the Linux in enterprise level. So as an engineer who is working like in a basis of something, but what this Linux enterprise, in enterprise level, where and all we are using these kind of Linux operating systems. So first of all, we want to know is, this being used in the automation and orchestration. That means inside the organization there will be so many automation projects, so we'll be using the, and so utilization, especially like a hypervisor KVM, VMware Workstation Pro, or VMware products, especially Linux related devices. So there we are using this Linux in a very 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 advanced way. And private cloud, when we need a private cloud for the organization, like OpenStack is a famous example for that. And apart from that, the big data, analyzing the whole data of the organization, making some detailed information. Hadoop, for an example, so famous one. And containers and Dockers, Kubernetes, these things, these parameters are completely Linux oriented, completely specifically designed on the basis of Linux, and completely working on the basis of Linux. That means in 90 percentage of the entire organization level, things are working based on the Linux. So this is something that that will be helpful. As a long run, you may need to learn a lot of Linux things, and keep on I'll be keep on updating a couple of more questions that is commonly used, or commonly used in the organization levels. Thank you guys, thank you for tuning in. And if you have any sort of doubt, please put me in the chat, and I will be answering all of your queries. And if something goes, if I said something wrong in any basic perspective, please let me know anytime. You can reach me in the chat. I'll be trying to answer all those queries. Thank you very much.